patterns. The way that I perceive the shadow is, okay, let's say in childhood, I love to sing, right? This is my favorite example. I love to sing, and my family's always telling me how much I suck at singing. Like, you can't carry a tune, like you're horrible. This is terrible. So I start to internalize all of those stories, and I start to bury that desire to sing, right? I start to bury it, and I sing a little bit less. And then because of that, I put myself out there a little bit less. As an adult, now I have a complete fear of being seen, because I learned that who I am and the things that I love and the things that I desire are not good enough for other people. So as an adult, it affects the way that I parent, it affects my relationships, it affects my business, it affects my entire life. Now, this shadow of just wanting to sing is like not a big deal, right? Like to us, but other people that bury it, for them, that's a big deal, but it's also what it means about them. What does this shadow actually mean about me? And remember, by the time we are 30, 90 some percent of who we are is made up of memorized habits, often trauma responses and manifestations of the ego's protection mechanism. And that's what we're going to learn to see in the chart. This is what Ra said too. Forget who you think you are. Forget what you've trusted for 30, 40, 50 years. None of that is real. None of that is who you are. All of that is trauma responses, right? It's the way that we've learned to protect ourselves. It's the masks that we've put up. It's the ways that we've learned to survive. Now, if we start peeling away some of these layers and recognizing all of these things, who might I actually be? And this is when my world changed, when I realized who I actually was. And I was like, I've always loved this stuff, but I was like, oh my God, I'm actually good at it. And I can accept that about myself. And that's what we're going to start to dig into is, okay, I know I've repressed this thing that I do, but what does that actually mean? What am I making it mean about me? Well, I'm making it mean that I'm not good enough, that who I am is not good enough. And I'm telling you, every single person that I talk to that's stuck in business, it's because they have this belief because someone somewhere told them something was not good enough. So they're like, oh, well, I can't be seen now because what if it's not good enough? So that's what we want to understand. We want to get to the root. So format energy is the connections between the sacral and the root. If you have the complete channel, very powerful. If you have just the gate, also very powerful. If you have format energy, if my sacral here was undefined, but I still have the 9, this is potential for format energy, not as powerful, right? You're more likely to be fixed in somebody else's format energy because you don't have consistent access to that format energy. Now, if you have no format energy, there is nothing here. What I have found is that these people are more likely to amplify the nervous system reactions of their caregivers from childhood and carry it on with them. So one thing that we found is that means that their stories, the subconscious patterns and stories that they replay in their mind, are not their own. Their fears, not their own, right? Of course, some of them are. We're all traumatized. None of us are going to get out of this life alive. But a lot of the things that hold them back are not even theirs. So what I see happening is the defined centers are where we feel like we're too much. The undefined centers are where we feel like we're not enough. So if I'm a single definition and I feel like I'm too much, I'm going to overcompensate. Right. And it's the same with the undefined centers, which is why those shadows and those not self themes become so big. And it's like we said before, we don't live in a vacuum. So the effects of the undefined centers are going to affect our defined centers as well. This is the difference between someone who is really good at human design and someone who's just like mediocre and is just regurgitating information. They have lived experience. They've lived it. They've studied it. They've noticed it. Like, you start thinking human design. You start guessing people's human design on Netflix, at the bar. I've gone up to people and asked them for their birth information because I was like, you have to be a projector. Like, you just have to. And you live it. Like, this has become literally my life in terms of shadow and human design and trauma responses. Like, I pick it out from people. And if you really want to make this part of your life, part of your program, part of your work, then it's an energy investment.